She's an Austin 7 1937 tourer. When I lived in London, I used to go and see the London to Brighton run, and they were glorious cars. So I thought, well, when I get the chance, I'll get my own. Many, many years later in Australia, I've got mine. I just saw an advert. It was an auction for every kind of vintage car from a collector. I made sure I was there and had a look at the preview and talked it over with a friend who knew a lot about vintage cars, whereas I knew, in terms of the engine, nothing at all. It was obviously meant to be because it was all very straightforward, actually, you know. I've got the car. Oh, there we are. I certainly enjoyed making sure I knew all about the different parts of the engine, because I thought, well, I don't really want to break down somewhere. This one does have 4 gears. It does reverse. It works. It's got indicators. It's got everything you really need. It doesn't have a radio. It doesn't have air conditioning. It's very narrow. It's actually surprisingly quick how you get used to being in a vintage car. It's a comfortable ride, actually. Doris is after my grandmother. She was a lovely lady, lived a long, full life. She was married to Cyril, and he loved cars. He bought a new car every year, without fail. The Wall Street crash, he had a car. The Depression, he had a car. Yeah, they had many, many happy times, and that's all the photographs in the family. There's usually a car behind them. So, and then you just have to work out which type of car it was, you know, but he certainly had an Austin. This is the picture of Doris. So that's my grandmother, and that's her sister Violet and her husband Cyril, and they're all going off to a wedding. They're in their finery. And this is the Austin 7 handbook. A really good friend found that in his shed because he renovates a lot of cars. It cost 1 shilling back in the day, and it's got lovely photographs of the instrumentation, all the different things that you could want, after sales service and tools and accessories. Don't forget the ignition key when starting up. I don't know how you'd do that any other way. Don't leave the car in gear with the handbrake off. Don't make a fast run with the radiator muff closed. I don't think we've done that. Don't coast with the engine running and the clutch held out. And that's the list of spare parts as well, just in case you can run down to the local shop and get them, which in my case is the Austin 7 Club spares room. Now that we'd got the car and it was in working order, we thought, well, yes, Beta Birdwood, it's got to be. We've got to do this properly. So we entered the competition for best dressed car and best outfits. And we just went the whole hog. So I dressed up 1920s, 30s style, and my husband did the same. Beta Birdwood. I think it's just very well run. It's very enjoyable. It's as much to do with the people who are going in for it. It's very friendly, because if you get to the starting point early enough, you can have a really good look at everybody else's cars. And some cars are just very stylish. And mine's a little utilitarian type of car. Really, it's not quite the bee's knees in terms of the other cars in the competition. It's a joy to behold when it's like that. This was when we were really trying her out on, I think it was the Northern Expressway. We probably went a little bit too fast, but we were trying to see how fast she would go. We were touching 80, but we let it rip towards the end. You get the feeling the car could actually fall apart if you go much faster. Yeah, that was fun. We did it with a few other people from the club, the Austin 7 Club, and we'd always stop when somebody broke down. I met them at the day that I bought the car, at the auction. They were very keen to make sure, if they could, that the cars were going to stay local, stay in South Australia. Not many women buy vintage cars, really. A bit more now. I mean, there are quite a few members of the club who have cars, and they're women. Fortunately, Doris has run really well. She's running on a 6-volt battery. A lot of the other members have upgraded it now to a 12-volt, and it involves changing the lights and doing some other things. I'd like to keep her as original as possible. I think it was about 3 years ago now, we managed to do the run. We didn't stop up in Birdwood, and we came straight back. We had everything packed here, tucked her up in bed, and then we took ourselves off to the airport and flew out to Britain. And people thought we were we were mad to do that, but we thought, she's reliable. Just treat her like another car. Vintage Cars and Roses is what we do best.